Part 61. Golden Summoner. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 601. The practice room is a secret practice room located underground. Although it is a secret room, the secret room is also brightly decorated and extremely luxurious. In addition to being guarded by a 5 elements formation, there are also several disciples of the Tianxing sect around the secret room. Guard. Xiaopingan, Mian Lao, and the old woman came here. After just waiting for a moment, Xiaopingan heard a cold female voice outside the door. The saint has arrived. As this voice appeared, Mr. Mian and the old woman stood up and stood respectfully. Xiaopingan also stood up. 2 women with floor-length skirts and tall buns entered the secret room first and stood on the left and right. Then, a woman with a fairy-like appearance, like the bright moon on the dust, with black hair like silk, wearing a snow-white dress, floated into the room. In the martial arts room, the moment the woman walked into the secret room was filled with brilliance and everything lit up. I've seen the saint. When the old woman and Mian Lao saw the woman arriving, they both saluted the woman respectfully. Xiaopingan was dumbfounded. He waited until the old lady looked towards him with a warning look in her eyes before Xiaopingan suddenly reacted. He also followed the old lady and Mian Lao and saluted the woman and said in a rough voice, "I have seen the saint before." It's not that Xiaopingan has never seen a stunning woman, so it stands to reason that he wouldn't lose his temper like this. He just lost his temper just because he discovered that the saint of Tianxing sect who walked into the secret room was actually Mingruolan. Xiaopingan was so shocked that he suddenly lost his composure. However, in the eyes of the old woman and Mian Lao, they did not find it strange, because the person who lost his composure in front of the appearance and temperament of the saint of Tianxing sect was really too many, especially men. Let me go, how could it be Mingruolan? This is Mingruolan's temperament. No matter where she goes, she brings gorgeous effect and aura. Cao's appearance can be regarded as stunning, but compared to Mingruolan, Cao is slightly inferior. Cao has more of a girl's cuteness, but less of the awe-inspiring temperament of a woman. If we say Cao's temperament is that of a princess, while Mingruolan's temperament is that of a queen, and she is also the lord of the fairy palace who does not eat the fireworks of the world. Xiaopingan felt his head was buzzing. Ever since he came to the world of Yuan Kaiu, he had been separated from the other people in the Bushan project. He had only seen Yan Duo. He didn't expect that he could see Mingruo here. Lan. How could Mingruolan become a saint of Tianxing sect? And seeing that Mingruolan's cultivation level has actually reached the 7 Yang realm, it seems that Mingruolan also has a great opportunity after coming to the Yuan Kai world. I go. Mother-in-law and Mian Lao are exempt from the gift. Thank you for your hard work. Mingruolan said softly, then raised her jade-like wrist under the snow-white long sleeves, and made an elegant and generous gesture of exemption. Every move, they all exuded an amazing temperament that turned all living beings upside down. Then, her long neck turned slightly, and her bright eyes finally fell on Xiaopingan. Is this Mr. Mei? Hearing Mingruolan's voice, Xiaopingan was even more sure that this was Mingruolan and it could never be someone else. Xiaopingan nodded and suddenly put on a cautious expression, I am Mei Zheng. Xiaopingan recognized Mingruolan, but Mingruolan did not recognize Xiaopingan. I'll trouble you, Mr. Mei, this time. No matter what Mr. Mei sees here, please keep silent after he leaves here, otherwise Mr. Mei will get himself into big trouble. Mingruolan continued to talk to Xiaopingan. Don't worry, Saint. I'm here just to complete the deal with the Wanchen section. I don't care about anything else, Xiaopingan responded. That's the best, Mingruolan nodded and waved slightly. The 2 women with tall buns who followed her here bowed and walked out of the secret room, closing the door. Got up. Are all the followers from the 6 Yang realm? Xiaopingan smiled bitterly in his heart. He originally thought that he should be the strongest in the sky mending plan, but it seems that Mingrulan is not bad either. He has a golden finger that defies heaven and has only been able to reach where he is today. At this point, she was still being hunted by countless people, but this Mingrulan had somehow become the holy girl of the Tianxing sect, and her luck was invincible. Mian Lao, the saint has arrived, everything is ready, let's get started, the old woman said. Okay, let's get started, Mian Lao had a solemn expression on his face. He sat down first, then pointed to the two warm jade futons placed on the stone couch, please share with the holy lady and Mr. May sit on either side of me. Xiaoping'an sat on Mian Lao's left side. Mingrulan was like a white lotus, rising slowly and landing gently on Mian Lao's right side. The old woman did not sit down, but stood behind Xiaoping'an, like a protector and a monitor. If Xiaoping'an did anything wrong, she would be punished immediately. Please ask the holy lady to take out the sacred weapon, and also ask Mr. May to hold Yuan Shaoyi, and don't be affected by the flute. Mian Lao said to Mingrulan. Xiaoping'an also became curious, wondering what kind of sacred weapon it was that was so powerful. Mingrulan nodded, and when she moved her hand, there was a green transverse flute in her hand. The transverse flute seemed to have a strange magical power, but Mingrulan just took it out, and Xiaoping'an's ears seemed to I heard countless fairy music, and everything in the room in front of me was a little twisted. Mist appeared in the room, and the jade palaces of the fairy palace were looming. There seemed to be fairies in colorful clothes flying around in the clouds and mist. Xiaoping'an could even hear the chuckles of those fairies. In addition, the divine power in Xiaoping'an's secret mandala also shook. The divine power in the divine pool made of insect crystals in the secret mandala actually showed signs of overflowing from the divine pool. Xiaoping'an was startled and quickly hugged Yuan Shaoyi. The hallucinations in his eyes and ears gradually disappeared, and the changes in the secret mandala gradually calmed down. Is this a sacred weapon? Surprisingly, everyone around him was affected, and he didn't know what it would be like during an attack. Xiaoping'an felt awestruck in his heart. The Tianxing sect was looking for him, and they really wanted to use their soul power to conceive a holy weapon. Although there were many disciples of the Tianxing sect, for this kind of thing, whoever they let in would be equivalent to destroying whoever they wanted. The Tianxing sect himself was not willing to part with it. We can only look for life-threatening ones from outside. Mr. May, I will extract the soul power from your body. The soul power extracted is less than 1/3 of the soul power in your body. This process will take several hours. Mr. May, please don't move around and just cooperate quietly, okay, Mian Lao said to Xiaoping'an. Okay, Mr. Mian, please feel free to act as long as I don't move, Xiaoping'an said. Mian Lao nodded, moved his hand, took out a silver needle, and gently touched Xiaoping'an's forehead with the silver needle, and a drop of blood condensed from Xiaoping'an's eyebrow. Mian Lao pinched the complicated fingerprints, and after using the magic formula, his whole body was flashing with a layer of golden light. A big golden umbrella appeared behind him, floating above his head. The big golden umbrella unfolded and sprinkled a dense brilliance, covering everyone in the room. Inside that big umbrella is the Horcrux that Mian Lao refined for himself. This Horcrux is not used to attack, but to protect the soul when he casts a spell to separate the soul. Xiaoping'an closed his eyes and let Mian Lao do what he did. He said to Mingrulan in his heart, I'm sorry, we are familiar with each other, but I can't miss the bamboo pole that needs to be knocked. Under Mian Lao's action, between Xiaoping'an's eyebrows, a golden brilliance as thin as a hair was drawn out by the silver needle in Mian Lao's hand. The golden brilliance hovered in the air like a wisp. The falling smoke fell towards the sacred instrument flute in Mingrulan's hand. Except for Xiaoping'an, who had his eyes closed, the three people in the room all opened their eyes wide at this moment, staring solemnly and slightly nervously at the flute in Mingrulan's hand. Just when the golden brilliance in the middle of Xiaoping'an's eyebrows was about to approach the flute, the golden brilliance suddenly trembled. The tip of the golden brilliance began to turn red and trembled, twisting like a spiritual snake. Don't want to touch that sacred flute. Seeing such a scene, Mian Lao's face changed slightly. The silver needle in his hand quickly pierced the golden light. He quickly made a few fingers on the other hand, trying to press the golden light to the sacred instrument flute. Above, but the golden light trembled more and more violently, and the dark red color began to spread rapidly from the tip of the golden light, spreading halfway in the blink of an eye. Mian Lao tried twice and finally sighed. He put away the silver needle and fired a magic formula. The golden light suddenly disappeared into Xiaopinggan's forehead again. Xiaopinggan opened his dazed eyes and looked at Mian Lao. Mian Lao, is it over so soon? The old woman and Ming Ruolan both looked at Mian Lao with doubtful eyes. They both saw that this process seemed a bit unsmooth. Mian Lao pondered for a moment, winked at the old lady standing behind Xiaopinggan, and then said to Xiaopinggan pleasantly, "There is something unexpected happening here this time, and I would like to ask Mr. May to stay in the Tianxing sect's secret palace. Stay a little longer, wait a few days, and when I'm ready, I'll come back to extract the soul." Xiaopinggan smiled suddenly, left the jade futon and stood up. "Okay, no problem, I'll do whatever you want." The old woman was also a shrewd and powerful person. One look at Mian Lao's eyes and she knew that something might be unexpected about this matter. She immediately sent Xiaopinggan out of the practice room and ordered people outside to take Xiaopinggan to a place called King's Inn. A place to rest in the garden. As soon as Xiaopinggan left, the old woman returned to the room, frowned and asked, "Mian Lao, what happened? Why didn't you extract it?" Ming Ruolan had already put away the sacred flute and did not ask. "Mr. May's soul power is not cooperative," Mian Lao shook his head and said. "Ah, what does this mean? Didn't Mr. May just sit here and ask Mr. Mian to let you go and do whatever you want?" the old woman asked. Mian Lao nodded, then shook his head. "Mr. May is cooperative, but his soul power is not cooperative." Golden Summoner. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 602. Mr. May's soul power is not cooperative. The old woman frowned, a trace of anger flashed in her eyes. Is it because he is deliberately playing tricks? Mian Lao shook his head, his face a little solemn. It's not that he was playing tricks. Mr. May cooperated. It was a decision made by his mind. However, his soul power did not cooperate, but it was a spontaneous reaction of his emotional depression. Ming Ruolan had been listening quietly, and finally spoke at this time. "Mian Lao means that he cooperated with us because of the last resort, but he was not happy or satisfied in his heart, so his soul power showed very resistant." "What the saint said is absolutely true," Mian Lao nodded. "What a person thinks in his head controls his behavior, but his emotions and feelings can affect the state of his soul. In this case, if he rashly fusing his soul power with the sacred vessel will not only fail to nourish the sacred vessel, but will also cause damage. Yes, the nourishment of this holy weapon is indeed a big deal and cannot be taken lightly," the old woman nodded. Mian Lao continued to explain, "If it is an ordinary person, after the mind agrees, even if the emotion is unwilling, the difference in soul power will not be so big. But Mr. May is a little special. I never thought that his emotion would affect the soul. The power has such a great influence. He said before that most of his soul power comes from the Wanyan Raozi. It seems to be true. The Wanyan Raozi is a spiritual creature between heaven and earth and cannot bear any restraint. The soul power obtained from eating meat mushrooms will be more affected by emotions. Naturally, that soul power is not willing to be drawn out to make wedding clothes for others. Our Tianxing sect has been sending people to look for Wanyan meat mushrooms these years. But I have never been able to find it. I can only encounter that thing by chance. I didn't expect that today I would meet a person who ate part of the antlers of 10,000-year-old meat and mushrooms. This is also God's will." When Mian Lao said this, the old woman was also dumbfounded. Ming Ruolan frowned slightly, seeming to feel that this matter was a bit tricky. "Mian Lao, what should we do now?" the old woman asked. "Actually, this problem is not difficult. The problem of emotions needs to be solved by emotions. As long as you untie the knot of his emotions and make him willing to have his soul power extracted to nourish the sacred vessel, that's it," Mian Lao explained. "Mr. May's soul power is extremely strong. The soul power we extracted this time is less than 1/3 of the soul power in his body, because the soul power he lost this time does not account for much of the soul power in his body. This is the most rare thing, is that this means that after his soul power is consumed this time, he can gradually replenish most of the lost soul power by taking pills, and will only lose a little. 7 years later, the holy weapon will need for the second soul power nourishment. We can also find him to extract soul power again. As long as we can make this person willing to serve our Tianxing sect, depending on how full his soul power is, he can nourish us at least 10 times. The sacred weapon will not have a significant impact on his cultivation, and we will no longer have to worry about the nourishment of the soul power of the sacred weapon for 70 years, so this person is worth winning over." The old woman and Ming Ruolan both understood now. The old woman suddenly laughed, exhaled, and her eyebrows suddenly relaxed. "I have been talking for a long time, just to make people happy. This is simple. This person can sell himself to the Wanchen sect for the 7 Sun Realm Divine Spring. He is willing to do when a dead man comes to the Star of the Gods to fight for his life. What he cares most about must be his personal cultivation. We can just do what he likes and let him live in the secret palace for a while, and we will naturally find a way to make him willing." When the old woman was talking, she didn't actually know that the god of fortune boy was sitting on her shoulders, smiling naughtily and making faces at her. "Mr. May, this is King Xuanhuan. If Mr. May needs anything, you can tell us. We will serve Mr. May in King Xuanhuan. There are many forbidden areas of our Tianxing sect in this secret palace. If it is not necessary, please let me know, sir. Don't leave King Xuanhuan so easily." The ones who sent Xiaopingan to King Xuanhuan were 2 summoned maids from Tianxing section. Xiaopingan nodded. "Okay, I understand. You go down. I will rest for a while. I will call you if anything happens." The 2 maids saluted Xiaopingan and then left. King's Inn Garden is just outside the palace of this secret palace. The entire garden covers an area of almost 10 acres and is quite luxurious. The garden has pavilions, flowers, birds, and fish ponds, and all the appliances are exquisite. It is really impressive. Impeccable. The god of fortune boy had already transmitted the scene in the secret room. Xiaopingan was calm on the surface, but his heart was filled with joy, and there was a sense of refreshment all over his body. As expected, Tianxing Zong took the bait, and he was extorting money from behind. It's natural, as long as you don't go too far, it's easy to get a few boundary beads from him. Ming Ruolan also left the secret room just now. Xiaopingan asked the god of fortune boy to follow Ming Ruolan and wanted to know about Ming Ruolan's current situation. However, shortly after the boy of fortune god followed Ming Ruolan and left the secret room, Ming Ruolan passed through another door. The palace gate entered the central area of the palace garden. An invisible energy hung down from the palace gate like a bead curtain. It seemed to be a special barrier. The god of fortune boy couldn't help but stop. The message from the god of fortune was that if he followed Ming Ruolan through that ending, he would be discovered. Xiaopingan no longer asked the boy of the god of fortune to follow Ming Ruolan. Instead, he asked the boy of the god of fortune to stay in the secret realm of Tianxing section. I wandered around other places to learn about the situation in this secret palace. The secret palace of Tianxing sect covers an area of almost tens of thousands of square kilometers. The space in the palace is self-contained, with beautiful mountains and rivers everywhere and pleasant scenery. Tianxing Palace also raises many rare birds and beasts here, making it look like a fairyland. Similarly, there are probably hundreds of disciples of Tianxing Palace gathered here, both men and women, distributed everywhere. Among these disciples, the ones with the lowest cultivation level are also in the 6 Yang realm, and the ones with the highest cultivation level. What Xiaopingan can see now is that old woman has reached the 8 Yang realm. In addition to the barrier guarding the core of the palace, there are also several caves and pavilions guarded by barriers in the mountains and river valleys of this secret palace. They look a bit like places where masters retreat, and Xiaopingan did not let them. The lucky boy went inside to explore. From the conversations among the disciples of the Tianxing sect, Xiaopingan also learned some information. The secret palace of the Tianxing Palace is indeed movable. Previously, the secret palace was near Wuliang Mountain in the god-killing insect realm. The disciples of the Tianxing sect were also practicing and training near Wuliang Mountain. It was not until a month ago that the secret palace was moved to the space crack of the 10,000 God Star and settled here. There are two reasons for Tianxing sect's secret palace to be moved to Wanchen Star. One reason is that Tianxing sect and Wanchen sect have a good relationship. Tianxing sect allows disciples to come to Wanchen Star for training, which is also coordinating and supporting Wanchen sect's actions to protect their mother planet. The second reason is more utilitarian. The Tianxing sect is also very interested in the sacred treasure left by the fallen god found on the Wanshen star. Now the Wanshen sect also has an 8 Yang realm. The protector took many disciples to search and investigate. Xiaopingan was very interested in why Mingruolan became the saint of the Tianxing sect, but those people from the Tianxing sect were extremely respectful and cautious towards the saint of the sect, and few people discussed it in private. However, there was still a piece of information that caught Xiaopingan's attention. During the conversation between several Tianxing sect disciples, Xiaopingan learned that half a year ago, the Tianxing sect discovered a secret cave in Wuliang Mountain, and then the Tianxing sect and another god confrontations and contests have occurred in the Yi family. The secret palace of Tianxing sect has been moved to the Pantheon star this time, which seems to be a little bit to avoid its etch. In the world of Yuan Kaiu, the divine family is also a terrifying and powerful force. The divine family in the Yuan Kaiu world is different from the sections. The so-called divine family means that this family has produced demigods or demigods in its infinite history. They are gods, and the descendants of these demigods or gods have been passed down to this day without interruption. Such a history will also allow these divine families to have incomparable foundation and power. Some small and medium-sized sects and countries even exist dependent on these divine families. Judging from the time, could it be that the sacred instrument flute I just saw was taken by Tianxing sect from the secret cave of Wuliang Mountain? Xiaopingan couldn't help but secretly guess. This speculation cannot be confirmed yet, but just when the god of fortune boy was enjoying himself in the secret palace of Tianxing sect, in Xiaopingan's secret mandala, the long silent holy master, a huge pillar in the hall began to light up into the sky, and countless people in Lingxiao city began to gather in the holy master hall, waiting for the holy master to teach. The second chance to fuse the Holy Master World Pearl came so unexpectedly. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Golden Summoner. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 603. In the secret mandala and the Saint Master Hall, Xiaopingan once again transformed into a Saint Master, explaining the main ideas of the articles in the Analects of Confucius. The Holy Master Hall and the square outside the Holy Master Hall were crowded with people. The soldiers and warriors that Xiaopingan had summoned in the past few months and various characters all gathered in the Holy Master Hall to listen to Xiaopingan's words. Preaching, bathed in the glory of the Saint Master's Hall. Xiaopingan summoned many farmers in the secret mandala. At this moment, the summoned farmers and craftsmen, both male and female, also gathered in the square outside the Holy Master Hall, listening to Xiaopingan's loud voice. Throughout the Holy Master Hall and the entire Lingxiao city, rays of brilliance descended from the sky and shone on the bodies of the farmers and craftsmen. The faces of those farmers and craftsmen gradually revealed their wisdom and glowed with a different look. There were even various warriors, giants, assassins, and mythical beasts gathered inside and outside the Holy Master Hall, listening to Xiaoping's lectures. Even the streets outside the Saint Master's Hall were crowded with battalions of elite slave soldiers. Those summoned elite slave soldiers knelt on the ground one knee one by one, raising their heads and speaking with solemnity as if they were listening to the sounds of nature. With an expression of piety and admiration, he looked at the radiant Saint Master Hall. Xiaoping's voice roared throughout Lingxiao City, like morning bells and evening drums, inspiring people. Confucius said, "People can spread the Tao, but it is not the Tao that spreads people. People can make the Tao shine, but Tao cannot make people shine. People are the first." What is the meaning of this sentence? The Tao is not an illusory thing. No matter what the Tao, it needs to be if it falls on people's responsibilities, and there is no way. The way does not suppress people, but those who use the way to suppress others are also thieves. Throughout the ages, some thieves of the Tao have regarded themselves as Taoists and Tao practitioners, as representatives of the Tao, and have used Tao to suppress people. They have become gods and gods in the world, and they have formulated laws in the world. Anything that goes against them becomes treason. The most indispensable thing in history is this kind of people. They are often sanctimonious, with the posture of saving people from fire and water, but privately they are male thieves and female prostitutes, shameless and unethical. They only use Taoism. Suppressing people and using private principles to control others is a thief who insults the principles and should be punished. People can promote Tao, but Tao cannot promote people. In the final analysis, there is only one thing, that is, Tao is not the goal, only people are the goal, and only people in reality are the goal. Everything is based on the ethereal so-called Tao, the so-called hearing, seeing, learning, and practicing the way of the sage that uses real people as the goal and the real people as the means are all contrary to the teachings of the sage. The way of the sage is the way of human beings. This is the last sentence Xiaoping said today. After saying this, the entire secret mandala was filled with celestial music, colorful flowers, and visions. On the giant pillar of the Holy Master Hall, the reliefs of the world beads that Xiaoping had fused before appeared one after another. The historical illusions of the Chinese ethnic group once again appeared on the giant pillar. The elite slave soldiers who were kneeling on the ground to listen to the lecture all had tears streaming down their faces, as if they had been given a new lease of life. The kneeling elite slave soldiers shed tears one by one, and stood up from the ground one after another. A different aura appeared on the bodies of these elite slave soldiers. "I am a human being, why should I be a slave?" An elite slave soldier raised his arms to the sky and shouted wildly. "I am a human being, why am I a slave?" All the elite slave soldiers roared, and their voices shook the entire secret mandala. "I can promote the Tao, but the Tao cannot promote me," the roaring elite slave soldier shouted again. "I can promote the Tao, but the Tao cannot promote me," other elite slave soldiers also roared. "The Tao is within me. If the sky presses me, I will destroy the sky. If the earth buries me, I will destroy the earth. Since I am in the Tao, if you bully me, you will deceive the Tao." The elite slave soldiers followed and roared. Rays of golden holy light fell from the sky, shining on the elite slave soldiers. Each of those elite slave soldiers began to become extremely strong and tall, with solemn expressions on their faces. They were equipped with golden armor and sharp long hair. Spears and flaming spears began to appear on their bodies. The auras of all the elite slave soldiers changed. They were solemn, sacred, powerful, and fearless. Golden lights of divine inscriptions flashed at the feet of those elite slave soldiers. Those elite slave soldiers' brilliant flames began to appear on his body, each like a blazing torch. Gorgeous armor appeared on the slave soldier who took the lead in roaring, and a huge golden the Analects of Confucius appeared in the hands of the slave soldier. Originally, there were two giants kneeling on the street beside the elite slave soldiers, listening to the sermon. But at this moment, looking at the elite slave soldiers whose bodies were constantly changing, the two giants also had a look of fear on their faces, and they quickly backed away. Xiaopinggan was also a little surprised when he looked at the changed elite slave soldiers. In Xiaopinggan's eyes, he saw that the attributes on the heads of those elite slave soldiers had changed. The names of the elite slave soldiers became Templar warriors. Each one's life, wisdom, force, skills, and plane arrival time were happening. Earth-shaking changes. The elite slave soldiers are the most miserable, humble group of people who have been oppressed by the Tao. But at this moment, this group of people have realized the Tao and completely awakened. The originally humble slave soldiers have actually evolved into powerful Templar warriors and become the strongest troop he can summon. In addition to the slave soldiers, the wisdom of the farmers and craftsmen also improved comprehensively after Xiaopinggan finished this chapter, and the eyes of the summoned characters became more and more agile. In the secret cultivation room of King Xuanhuan, Xiaopinggan, who had just experienced the spiritual empowerment and marrow cleansing, opened his eyes, with a hint of surprise in his eyes. In the secret room, there was also a formation plate to protect the body. Fortune Boy and Xuanhuan were guarding the side. After confirming that there was no problem here, Xiaopinggan continued to integrate the Saint Master World Pearl here with confidence. The second fusion of the Holy Master World Pearl created the Templar Knights. I didn't expect that the characters summoned in the secret mandala can actually change and upgrade. Xiaopinggan said to himself. From now on, in his secret mandala, there will be no slave soldiers, only Templar warriors, which consume the same amount of divine power, but compared with the slave soldiers, the combat power of the summoned Templar warriors has been turned upside down. In addition, Xiaopinggan once again mastered the secret method of initiation of 64 world beads. The number of world beads he can now initiate has increased to 128. At the same time, the upper limit of divine power has been increased by 100 points, making the upper limit of divine power in his secret mandala more powerful. It became 9,025 points. There are still 18 giant pillars in the Holy Master Hall, which means that if I preach in the Holy Master Hall 18 more times, I can still increase my divine power by 1,800 points. Xiaopinggan laughed. The upper limit of divine power required to advance to the 8 Yang realm is 10,920 points. If I can completely fuse the Saint Master World Pearl now, wouldn't I be able to advance to the 8 Yang realm immediately? But Xiaopinggan couldn't figure out when the Saint Master World Pearl would next have a chance to preach again. Xiaopinggan put away the Xuanhuan and the formation disc and walked out of the secret room. Only 2 hours had passed and everything was as usual outside. At this moment, the old woman from the Tianxing sect came, with a smile on her face and a few maids, and a table full of delicacies, as if she came to express condolences to Xiaopinggan. Golden Summoner. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 604. Mr. May, this is the peach blossom fairy dew that has been stored for more than 200 years. It is a specialty of our Tianxing section. This jar of peach blossom fairy dew can make people live 10 years longer and give them sweet dreams at night. Our Tianxing sect produces it in 1 year. There are only 100 altars of peach blossom fairy dew. And this is the 10,000-year-old turtle beard from the bottom of the sea. If you want to eat this turtle beard, you have to cook it with slow fire and purple ginseng for 7 days and 7 nights. Only then can the flavor of this turtle beard come out. This turtle beard, although it is not as good as the 10,000 years pork mushroom that Mr. May had eaten before, it is also a great tonic for a person's soul power. And this is also a famous dish of our secret palace. It is called earth mussel. The muscles and bones that are eaten by it are strong, which is not comparable to that of ordinary people. The old lady of Tianxing sect was smiling brightly, and she sat next to Xiaopinggan. While watching Xiaopinggan eat these extraordinary delicacies, She introduced them to Xiaopingyan. Ha ha ha, Protector Yan is so polite. These are all famous dishes, so they can't be wasted. Xiaopingyan laughed, eating the vegetables and drinking at the same time, so happy. To be honest, Xiaopingyan hasn't had such a gluttonous feast for a long time since he entered the Seven Yang Realm retreat. Even Xiaopingyan has seen a lot of the world, but the table full of food and wine that Tianxing sect entertained him all had origins, and it was extremely luxurious. The old lady only gave a brief introduction, but if he really needed someone else to explain, the origin and preparation of every dish on this table could probably be told for 10 minutes. Mr. May and I hit it off as soon as we met. If Mr. May doesn't mind, just call me Granny Yan. There's no need to be so different. The sacred weapon in our saint's hands depends on Mr. May. No problem, no problem. Xiaopingyan ate with his mouth full and patted his chest. When Mian Lao is going to extract soul power again, just tell me. Since I'm here, I will naturally listen. Please cooperate with me at any time. By the way, I don't know why Mr. May came to this Wanshen star. Is it really because of the divine spring provided by Wanshen sect? Grandma Yan was very happy to see Xiaopingyan, and unknowingly led the conversation to cultivation. Xiaopingyan smiled inwardly and said, "Sure enough, the meat show is here." Who says it's not the case? Xiaopingyan sighed with emotion and put down his chopsticks. A summoner like me works alone. At best, he is unrestrained and free, with no ties. At worst, he is a loner with no background. Because I have reached this point, countless people in the world are relying on me and relying on me, but I have nothing to rely on and have nothing to rely on. I can only rely on myself for everything. The divine spring of the Seven Yang realm is either hidden in a place that no one knows about, you may not be able to find it even if you look for it for hundreds of years, or it is already controlled by a large section. If I have other ways, I won't have to sell myself to the Wanshen section to get to this Wanshen sect. Come to the stars to fight for your life. Our Tianxing sect is also a major sect in the Yuankai world. There are also demigods in the sect who are powerful. If Mr. May is willing to join our Tianxing sect, and a master of talent like Mr. May, our Tianxing sect will definitely yes, you are welcome. As long as Mr. May joins, I can recommend Mr. May to be the leader of our Tianxing section. He can control one side and be the sole leader. There will be no problem. From now on, Mr. May will have all the cultivation resources in our Tianxing sect, including the World Pearl Divine Spring. Being able to enjoy the opportunity is much better than Mr. May fighting alone, Granny Yan said immediately. You think so? Well, you actually want to drag yourself to Tianxing sect to work for you for free? What a cunning old man. Xiaopingyan murmured in his heart, but on the surface he sighed, I appreciate Grandma Yan's kindness, but I already have a master's ancestral court, and it's really inconvenient for me to switch to Tianxing sect. Oh, I wonder who Mr. May's school is. A small family. My master once told me that if I don't reach the realm of 9 suns, I don't have to say it out loud and make people laugh. Xiaopingyan said with some melancholy. Grandma Yan nodded. Many sects do have such rules. If no one in the sect reaches the 9 Yang realm, it will indeed be relatively low-key. Xiaopingyan's wind swept away all the delicacies and wine on the table. Grandma Yan waved her hand and asked several summoned maids to remove the banquet. Before taking away, she gave Xiaopingyan a jade bottle. Mr. May, this jade bottle contains the antidote to the poison in your body. As long as you take this antidote, you can regain your freedom and return to the world of the god-killing insects at any time. You no longer have to be bound by the 10,000 gods section. Xiaopingyan looked surprised and excited. Ah, don't you have to wait until the soul power is extracted before giving it to me? We, the Tianxing sect, have a predestined relationship with Mr. May, and we also believe in Mr. May's character. How can we bear to use this to blackmail Mr. May into doing things for us? Thank you very much, Xiaoping's face finally showed a hint of gratitude, and he solemnly put away the jade bottle. Granny Yan smiled and nodded, then don't disturb Mr. Mei. This King Xuanhuan is also a quiet place. No one will disturb you. Mr. Mei has a good rest. If you need anything, please let me know. Xiaoping sent Granny Yan to the door of the yard and watched Granny Yan leave before returning to his residence. It was getting dark now. Xiaoping took out the exquisite jade bottle in his hand and smiled slightly. From now on, he could return to the world of the god-killing insects openly and no longer arouse suspicion. This Tianxing sect is really measured in doing things. The so-called goodwill and winning people's hearts are naturally established step by step. Seeing that Tianxing sect is pretending not to be in a hurry, he also pretends not to be in a hurry and just settles here for a few days. This Tianxing sect's secret palace is really a good place, no one disturbs it, and there are people waiting on it. These days, I will study spells such as formations, mechanism runes, etc. here, so as to accumulate more means for myself to save my life. The power of the peach blossom fairy dew surged up at this time, making Xiaoping feel warm and indescribably comfortable, and even slightly tipsy. Xiaoping went straight back to the room and fell asleep. In the next few days, as expected, Xiaoping became a guest of the Tianxing section. Not only was she entertained with all kinds of delicacies from other worlds every day, Grandma Yan also gave Xiaoping gifts from time to time. Granny Yan gave Xiaoping a bottle of the 1,000-year-old chalcedony liquid that can build muscle, renew bones, and remove toxins. Mian Lao invited Xiaoping to drink, and gave Xiaoping a Horcrux Changgong. The longbow was also considered a fine item. Except for a few forbidden areas in this secret palace, Xiaoping is allowed to come and go, and the Tianxing sect does not restrict his freedom of life. Xiaoping felt like he was on vacation in this secret palace. Finally, on the 9th day after arriving here, Xiaoping was just getting ready to go to bed when a small white paper crane flew out of the window outside the yard and landed on the lampstand in front of his bedside table. Before seeing the paper crane, Xiaoping was stunned for a moment, because this was the first time he had seen such a technique. This paper technique looked simple, but it had a novelty that was light and easy. Extremely interesting. The little paper crane was cut out of paper, the size of a palm, and lifelike. After landing on the table, he took 2 steps, combed his feathers, and then spoke to Xiaoping. The voice in those words belonged to Ming Ruolan. Ruolan will go boating on Tianfang Lake at sunrise tomorrow morning. We have also prepared some wine and food. If you don't mind, sir, you can come to Tianfang Lake to get together. The sound of paper cranes has the same effect as a gramophone, clear and bright. Ming Ruolan's voice is like the jingling of jade and the swaying of silver bells. It is especially sweet. Listening to the sound, you can feel that Ming Ruolan is standing beside you. It was the same as before, and at the same time, the paper crane seemed to have a trace of Ming Ruolan's fragrance. Xiaoping laughed loudly and said directly to the paper crane, "Please tell the saint that I will definitely be there tomorrow." After Xiaoping finished speaking, the paper crane flapped its wings, flew up from the table, and flew out of the window in the blink of an eye. Early the next morning, as soon as it got dark, Xiaoping cleaned up and washed up, then flew out of Qingxing Garden and flew towards Tianfang Lake. Tianfang Lake is to the east of the secret palace. The entire lake covers almost thousands of square kilometers. The scenery around the lake is beautiful and the water is as clear as blue. It is a good place for leisure. A sun also rises from the east of this secret place, shining on a layer of mist above the lake, making it particularly atmospheric. Xiaoping flew to Tianfang Lake and saw Ming Ruolan waiting there. Golden Summoner. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 605. Xiaoping didn't know why there was a sun in this secret realm. He felt that it was beyond his current ability to understand. But the newborn sun shone on Ming Ruolan. Ming Ruolan at this moment, in Xiaoping's eyes, like a goddess walking out of the lake, her whole body shining with light. Only one sentence flashed through Xiaoping's heart, which is extraordinary and unconventional, beautiful and elegant, beautiful makeup and carvings, and graceful. Mr. May is indeed punctual. How dare you be late for an appointment with the saint? Xiaoping laughed. Ming Ruolan smiled slightly, waved his hand in Luoluo Dafang, and with a flash of light, on the lake, the water rippled, the mist rolled, and suddenly a huge building boat dozens of meters long appeared. The building boat was divided into two parts. The third floor is extremely gorgeous. There are two huge water wheels under the building. The building is equipped with sailors, maids, musicians, and everything. Summon the building ship? Just this one move can compare to many summoners of the Seven Sun realm. Xiaopingyan has not yet seen what the boundary pearl that summons the tower ship looks like. As soon as the building boat was summoned, Ming Ruolan landed on the building boat, and Xiaopingyan also landed on the building boat. The two of them entered the room on the top floor of the building boat together. It is the highest, has the best scenery, and is the most open. There were several musicians playing music in the room, and there were two tables in the room, with tea, wine, and food already placed on them. They were all ready. There were maids waiting beside them. In this situation, although there were only two people on the boat, it seemed quite lively due to the presence of those summoned characters, and it did not feel ambiguous or embarrassing. The two of them sat behind the two tables respectively, enjoying the scenery outside the window and chatting. I don't know how Mr. May has been living here these days, but he's quite satisfied. Ming Ruolan started chatting with Xiaopingyan like a landlord. To be honest, I haven't enjoyed such a relaxed and comfortable life for a long time since I entered the world of god-killing insects, Xiaopingyan said sincerely. By the way, I wonder what the relationship between the saint and the leader of Tianxing sect is. The sect master is my adopted mother and my master. What I am today is all thanks to the sect master, Ming Ruolan replied calmly. Hearing what Ming Ruolan said, Xiaopingyan immediately understood what Ming Ruolan's opportunity was. It turned out that he was spotted by the leader of the Tianxing sect and accepted him as his adopted daughter and disciple. No wonder. All I can say is that this is opportunity. After roughly guessing Ming Ruolan's opportunity, Xiaopingyan resisted the urge to reveal his identity. If he and Ming Ruolan recognized each other at this time, it would not be a good thing for him or Ming Ruolan. I don't know if the identity of the perpetrator has been exposed in the Tianxing sect, but it is known to the world that he is wanted by the Blood Demon sect, and that he and the Lord Demon God are offering a reward for his death. If Ming Ruolan knew his identity, it might not be a good thing for the two of them. Having made up his mind, Xiaopingyan took a long breath and raised his glass to Ming Ruolan. It is indeed rare and enviable for a saint to have such an opportunity. I give you a toast to the saint. Sir, if you want to extract your soul power to perfect the holy weapon in my hand, please call me Ruolan if you are kind to me. Ming Ruolan picked up the wine glass, touched Xiaopingyan from a distance, and drank it all in one gulp. Ruolan doesn't need to be polite, it's as it should be. I have obtained the divine spring of the nether realm from the Wanchen sect, so I have to pay for it in equal exchange. Whenever the Tianxing sect needs to extract soul power, I will be there at your call. Ming Ruolan pondered for a moment, his eyes flashing with brilliance of wisdom. Sir, the agreement between you and the Wanchen sect is with the Wanchen section. In any case, you, sir, have helped our Tianxing sect a lot this time. The two cannot be confused. I don't know. Whatever your daily needs, sir, or if there is anything you want in particular, you can tell me. As long as Tianxing sect can provide it, it will be treated as a reward to sir. After the warming up in the past few days, Ming Ruolan came forward in person today, with the blessing of the saint's halo to negotiate terms with him. This should be able to dissolve the resistance in his heart to the greatest extent and let his emotions, his ambition was fully satisfied. Such an arrangement was indeed sound and appropriate, and Xiaopingyan himself could not find any fault with it. Now is the time to extort money. Of course, Xiaoping'an was not polite. He could only say in his heart, I'm sorry, it's also for the mission, and then he spoke. Xiaoping'an's eyes flashed, he pressed his hands on the table, leaned forward slightly, with an ambitious look on his face, since Ruolan asked, I will tell the truth, my biggest pursuit is to advance a demigod can bring glory to our ancestors and bring glory to our entire sect, so what I need most is naturally the boundary pearl. Xiaoping'an's ambition is actually to become a god. Now when he talks about being a demigod, he actually doesn't want to attract too much attention. In the eyes of many summoners, being a demigod is actually the pursuit of many ambitious summoners. After all, the road to becoming a god is, in fact, it's so slim that it's even difficult for a strong demigod to reach the sky, let alone others. No matter how confident the summoner is, no one will talk about being a god. Ming Ruolan nodded slightly, as if he was not surprised by Xiaoping'an's answer. Summoners who risked themselves for the divine spring were ruthless people who pursued strength at all costs. Mr. May, can you fuse this world bead? Ming Ruolan said, and with a move of his hand, he took out a world bead that was as bright as a small sun. This is the brightest boundary bead that Xiaoping'an has ever seen. When the boundary bead was taken out, the entire cabin was suddenly reflected in a snow-white divine light, making everything around it become holy and ethereal, like it's like being in heaven. In that bright light, Xiaoping'an saw that there was only one word Yao in the world bead. Sun Saint World Pearl, Xiaoping'an exclaimed. This is definitely one of the most cherished and rarest world beads. Xiaoping'an heard about it when he went to the capital. The rarity of this world bead can be compared to the domain world bead, and the role of this world bead is similar to that of the domain world bead. Compared with pearls, they all have their own merits. This Sun Saint boundary bead can consolidate the secret mandala. It is the key world bead that the secret mandala can eventually form into the kingdom of God. At the same time, this world bead can also materialize the summoner secret mandala. For example, Xiaoping'an is now there are rivers, lakes, mountains, and forests in the secret mandala, but he can no longer raise fish in the rivers, lakes, and seas of the secret mandala, raise sheep on the grassland, plant trees on the mountains and rivers, let alone plant trees on the mountains and rivers. A living person gets into the boundary beads. He can only use the spatial warehouse in the world pearl and put some inanimate things into the world pearl for processing. But the summoner who fuses the Sun Saint World Pearl can turn the World Pearl into reality, allowing the secret mandala to gradually form a real world. Once the secret mandala is integrated with this World Pearl, fish can really be raised in the river of his secret mandala, and trees can be planted on the mountains. He can even get people into the secret mandala, and they can live in the secret mandala. Become one and live freely. Moreover, it is said that the Sun Saint realm pearl can be fused with the Seven Yang realm. Could it be that Tianxing sect wants to give the Sun Saint realm pearl to him? The price seems to be a bit high, it is much more than what he should pay to let him draw his soul power once. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Golden Summoner. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 606. Ruolan took out the Sun Saint world bead. Could it be that he wanted to give it to me? Xiaoping'an stared at the Sun Saint world bead in Ming Ruolan's hand and asked, licking his lips. If Tianxing sect really dared to give it away, he would definitely accept it, and he would not get what he asked for, but he also knew that Tianxing sect would never give him such a precious world bead just to extract soul power for no reason, and Tianxing sect was not taken advantage of. Ah! If Mr. May wants it, I can naturally give you this world pearl. Ming Ruolan smiled slightly. Mr. May should know that the Sun Saint world pearl has almost no corresponding divine sense crystal, and the history of our Tianxing sect on the above. There are 3 elders who have integrated the successful Sun Holy World Pearl. Our Tianxing sect has the life records and sect testimonials of these three people. After seeing those notes and testimonials, we can understand the three people of our Tianxing section. The life of the senior can greatly increase the probability of merging this world bead by more than 40%. If Mr. May wants to fuse this world bead, our Tianxing sect can also add the secrets of our Tianxing sect's fusion of this world bead. The information will be sent together to help Mr. integrate successfully. Without the divine sense crystal and without knowing the history of the world pearl, the method for those wealthy sects to master the fusion of the world pearl is to collect information about those people within the sect who have fused with a certain world pearl, and to know the character of the person who fused the world pearl. Abilities, past, etc. for big data analysis. The more sample data is analyzed, the more commonalities among the fused people can be found, thus becoming an important reference for the fused world beads. This kind of method cannot be used by ordinary people at all. Only those wealthy families with extremely deep knowledge are qualified to play it, and those analytical data have become the secrets and even treasures of these wealthy families. Today, I am not a child. The Tianxing sect will not give away this kind of precious world bead to others for no reason. What conditions does the Tianxing sect have? You can tell me and see if I can do it. Refreshingly, in fact, Tianxing sect has two conditions. As long as Mr. can achieve one of them, our Tianxing sect can give the Sun Saint Realm Pearl to Mr. May, and let Mr. May read the confidential information to help Sir fuse this world pearl. What two conditions? The first condition is that Sir, haven't you encountered Wanyan Raozi before? As long as you can find a way to capture Wanyan Raozi, our Tianxing sect is willing to exchange it with you for the Sun Saint Realm Pearl. Xiaopingan suddenly understood that the Tianxing sect wanted to cultivate disciples with super high soul power to conceive and raise the holy weapon. No, it probably wanted Mingruolan to have super high soul power. Then Mingruolan naturally, he can use his own soul power to conceive and nurture the holy weapon, once and for all, without having to trouble others. The soul power of an antler that he ate from the Wanyan meat ji increased several times. If Mingruolan had used Wanyan after eating meat mushrooms, the soul power increases more than 10 times, isn't it just like playing? However, Xiaopingan made up the 10,000 years meat ji. He only knew from the mouth of Mu Lao that there is such a spiritual creature. This kind of heaven and earth spiritual thing can also strengthen people's soul power. But where to find the 10,000-year meat ji, he doesn't know either, so this condition cannot be met. What about the second condition? Xiaopingan asked. Mr. May should know that the soul power in his body is extremely strong and different from ordinary people. If an ordinary person extracts the soul power that can refine 10 ordinary soul weapons at one time, the damage will be very great, and it will be difficult for pills to make up for it. Those soul powers, the effect of the elixir is somewhat related to the foundation of a person's soul power, and because Mr. May's soul power is so strong, even if he can extract 10 ordinary soul weapons at a time, the damage to Mr. May will not be great, and it is also you can make up for most of it by taking pills later, so the loss is not too big. Xiaopingan nodded, yes, so. As long as you agree to let Tianxing sect extract soul power every 10 years, 7 times in a row, this world pearl can be given to you after 70 years. A master who has just advanced to the 7 Yang realm may not be able to advance to the 8 Yang realm in the next 100 years. Once his cultivation reaches this realm, the world beads that can be integrated are becoming increasingly rare, and the time spent in each realm will be longer and longer. The longer it is, the longer it takes for a big realm above the 7 Sun realm to be delayed for 1 to 200 or 300 years. So the 70 years mentioned by Mingruolan may seem like a long time, but to a master of this level, it's not that it's unacceptable. Oh, didn't I already agree to let Mr. Mian extract my soul power last time? Why do you have to put in such effort and cost to get me to agree again? Xiaopinjian asked in confusion. Mingruolan then explained the relationship between soul power and emotion. Xiaoping'an looked embarrassed and suddenly realized, I'm sorry, I didn't expect it to be like this, but I really can't control the soul power. Mr. S situation is special, and we are not blaming him. That's why I came to have a talk with him today to resolve his unhappiness. I want to cooperate with him for a long time. In order to show our sincerity, in addition to the Sun Saint World Pearl, after we have cooperated 7 times, we can give it to the husband. Every time he allows us to extract divine power, we can also give him 2 rare world beads and the corresponding spiritual crystal. After 3 times, we can let him watch the fusion of Tianxing section, the secret volume recording the Sun Saint World Pearl. For the last time, we will present the Sun Saint World Pearl. Xiaoping'an almost laughed. The Tianxing sect was really thoughtful in doing things and took everything into consideration. In order to make him feel comfortable, the Tianxing sect gave him a long-term goal to mobilize his enthusiasm in devoting his divine power, and gave him the rewards and benefits that he can touch immediately. Hold him tightly. If you do a good job, you can get the boundary beads quickly enough, which really saves time and effort. Xiaoping'an originally wanted to take advantage of the 3 world beads, but now the plan proposed by Tianxing sect is acceptable. The relationship between Xingzone has become tense, and it will be difficult to continue to rip off people in the future. Will the water flow slowly? He. Being able to use the soul power that was readily available in the spiritual world in exchange for so many benefits in Tianxing sect, Xiaoping'an felt that he had made a lot of money. Xiaoping'an's eyes shone with excitement. Rulan means that if I dedicate my divine power this time, I will also be rewarded with 2 rare world beads from the Tianxing sect. Good. I have already fused many rare world beads. The world beads Tianxing sect gives me must be ones that I have not fused before to be useful. Of course, we will take out some rare world beads for you to choose. Ming Rulan also smiled when she saw Xiaoping'an's appearance. When will Mr. Mian come to extract my soul power again? I think I'm ready now. Xiaoping'an couldn't help but stand up. One day later, it was still in the same secret room as before. Mian Lao, Granny Yan, Ming Rulan, and Xiaoping'an met here again. Everything was just like last time. Only this time, Mian Lao acted according to the law, but it went extremely smoothly. The golden thread of soul power drawn from Xiaoping'an's eyebrows no longer resisted or changed at all when it touched the sacred instrument, the flute. But seemed a little impatient, and was easily absorbed by the sacred instrument flute. The sacred instrument flute, which absorbed the soul power, glowed with green light. The green light reflected the entire wall of the room like a palace built of jade. Mian Lao and Granny Yan exchanged glances and nodded. In the emerald green light, Xiaoping'an was surprised to find that on the stone floor of the room, there were actually mushrooms, weeds, and wild flowers growing crazily on the walls and ground of the room. This was not an illusion, but real plants began to take root and grow thickly throughout the room. On a sandalwood table in the room, there were even Ganoderma lucidum growing in the green light, and the fragrance was overflowing. Is this the power of the holy weapon? Looking at everything in the room in front of him, Xiaoping'an couldn't help but be impressed by the powerful ability displayed by this sacred weapon, and was secretly shocked. The higher the summoner's level, the closer he could get to and master this otherworldly power that is close to the origin of the universe. It's so powerful. It only took a little more than an hour to extract the soul power. Mian Lao extracted about 11 soul powers, which was a little more than Xiaoping'an had expected before, but it was not too much. After draining the soul power, the Horcrux flute began to sing without wind, and the beautiful music sounded from the holes of the flute. Ming Rulan quickly put away the Horcrux flute. At this time, the room had turned into a green forest, and Xiaoping'an looked like a drug sluggish. Granny Yan finally showed a smile on her face, nodded with satisfaction, and asked the maid to take Xiaoping'an down to have a good rest. Golden Summoner. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 607. After leaving the secret room and returning to King Xuanhuan, Xiaoping'an pretended to take some soul-nourishing elixir sent by Tianxing sect and fell asleep. It wasn't until the next morning that Xiaoping'an seemed to have recovered a little, and his face looked calm. A little better. Granny Yan came to visit early in the morning. After a night's rest, Mr. May should have recovered a little. Granny Yan smiled, and her attitude towards Xiaoping'an became much better. Now that she has a good relationship with Xiaoping'an, the Tianxing sect's sacred weapons will need soul power in the future. Nourish, so you don't have to worry about it. Moreover, after the sacred weapon was nourished by Xiaoping'an's soul power yesterday, Mian Lao and Ming Ruolan both said that the effect was unexpected. Mr. May's soul power was purer than that of ordinary people, and the effect on the sacred weapon was even 2 points stronger. So Grandma Yan was also in a good mood, finally settling one of her worries. Fortunately, I was still a little dizzy yesterday, but I feel much better today, Xiaoping'an said. Mr. May will stay in the secret palace for a few more days. I will instruct the people below to add more soul-nourishing things to Mr. May's meals during these days, so that he can recover as soon as possible. Thank you so much. Xiaoping'an showed his true colors as a bachelor without being polite and asked, the 2 world beads you promised me before. Ha ha ha. Grandma Yan laughed, our Tianxing sect is also a large and reputable section. Naturally, we will not go back on what we promised to my husband. The saint is still trying to figure out the sacred artifact today, so I came here flawlessly, so today I came here specially to give the world beads to Mr. Yan. Granny Yan said, without being polite to Xiaoping'an. With a wave of her hand, there was an open box on the table in front of the 2 of them. The box looks like a jewelry box. It is divided into small spaces with 10 rows horizontally and 10 rows vertically. A box is divided into exactly 100 spaces. In each space, the boundary beads are placed on the left and the boundary beads are placed on the right. The corresponding spiritual crystal. Looking at the 100 gleaming world beads and 100 spiritual crystals placed in front of him, Xiaoping'an also felt that his eyes had been opened, and he took a slight breath of cold air. The big sect was indeed extraordinary. What he saw in front of him throwing these 100 world beads to any summoner would probably immediately allow that summoner to at least advance to the 3 Yang realm. Xiaoping'an also knew why Ming Ruolan was able to advance to the 7 Suns realm. With such a large sect as his backer, it was indeed not difficult to reach the 7 Suns realm with a pile of resources. Looking at Xiaoping'an's shocked look, Granny Yan smiled slightly, with a hint of pride on her face. These are just some of the world beads of my Tianxing section. Mr. May can choose 2 of them. In fact, most of Xiaoping'an's 100 boundary beads have been fused by Xiaoping'an, but there are also some boundary beads that Xiaoping'an has not fused with. Xiaoping'an was dazzled by the sight and moved his index finger. If he could snatch it, Xiaoping'an could not wait to take all the boundary beads. Xiaoping'an snatched the beads, but thinking that he might not be Granny Yan's opponent, and that he couldn't do without this secret palace if he grabbed it, Xiaoping'an gave up the idea of robbing the world beads. If you can only fuse 2 world beads, you must naturally choose the world bead that has the greatest effect on you now. Xiaoping'an's eyes searched for the boundary beads, and suddenly he saw a boundary bead that he had not fused before. The boundary bead was blood red, with 4 small golden seal characters on it: Forbidden Garden Pig Herding. Seeing this world bead, Xiaoping'an's heart moved and asked Granny Yan directly. Grandma Yan, what's the secret of this world bead? Grandma Yan took one look at the world bead and laughed. Mr. May has good eyesight. This world bead is an evil-breaking world bead. It is rare even among rare world beads. After fusing this world bead, you can perform the evil-breaking magic method. Is designed to break all kinds of evil and crooked magic methods, such as the method of corpse transformation, the method of curse, and the method of charming soul-stealing puppet sacrifice. You can use this method to break it? Haha, then I want this world bead. Xiaoping'an said, and he picked up the world bead and the divine mind crystal unceremoniously. This world bead is simply the devil's eye on earth. Nemesis, it can be of great use after fusion. Sir, you can also choose another world bead. Xiaopinggan took a look among the boundary beads and saw the word Wenzhong written on one of the boundary beads. He couldn't help but pick up the boundary bead and the corresponding divine mind crystal again. This Wenzhong world bead is also used to summon giants. Giants are powerful in battle. By accumulating and fusing these giant summoning world beads, the summoned giants can become larger and larger in size and stronger in combat power. Mr. May, have you chosen? I've already made my choice, thank you, mother-in-law. Xiaopinggan also smiled with satisfaction. I think you can't wait, so I won't disturb you. You can rest assured that no one will disturb you. If you need anything, just ask the maid. Okay. Granny Yan waved her hand, put away the boundary beads on the table and stood up. Xiaopinggan sent Granny Yan out of the courtyard with one finger, and then returned to the secret cultivation room in the courtyard. Returning to the secret training room, Xiaopinggan summoned the fortune god boy and Xuanhuan, protected the secret room with a formation disc, and then took out the two boundary beads just now, put them in his hands and looked at them carefully. It seems that I really have to find an excuse to stay in the secret realm of Tianxing Sect's palace for a little longer. Tianxing Sect is really rich and powerful, and they must have a lot of world beads. I will stay here for a few more days to see if Tianxing Sect can, if Zhong Yu asks for more of himself, he might be able to get a few more boundary beads, Xiaopinggan murmured to himself, with a smile on his face. Looking at the two boundary beads in his hand, Xiaopinggan already had a suspicion in his mind. The boundary bead pig herding in the Forbidden Garden was about an incident during the Song Shenzong period. The protagonist of the incident was Song Shenzong, and the Forbidden Garden was the royal family of the Song dynasty. It is a bit mysterious to raise rare birds and animals in the royal garden, but Xiaopinggan knows the cause and effect, so it is not difficult for Xiaopinggan to integrate this world pearl. But this Wenzhong world pearl that summons giants is somewhat telling. Wenzhong was a giant general under Qin Shi Huang. According to historical records, Wenzhong was nearly 2 feet tall and was a giant general under Qin Shi Huang. There are few official historical records about Wenzhong. But there are many folklores. The huge stone man standing in front of the emperor's mausoleum since the Qin and Han dynasties is called Shi Wenzhong, which originated from this. I don't know how to fuse this Wenzhong world pearl. Now that he has Wenzhong's spiritual mind crystal, Xiaopinggan is not going to waste it, it can be used as a reference. The first thing Xiaopinggan fused was the Wenzhong world pearl, together with the divine sense crystal. In a moment, Xiaopinggan was wrapped in a cocoon of earthy yellow light. But this light cocoon lasted too short. In less than 30 seconds, the light cocoon shattered, revealing Xiaopinggan's figure and slightly shocked face. I didn't expect that this world bead could be fused so easily. Golden Summoner. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 608. The Wenzhong world bead that was just fused is the same as the Earth Escape world bead that Xiaopinggan obtained before. It is the easiest to fuse, but also the most difficult to fuse. In the world of the world pearl just now, there was a majestic giant in armor standing in front of Xiaopinggan. As long as Xiaopinggan said the name Wenzhong, the fusion of the world pearl would be successful. If you don't know the history or have a spiritual mind crystal and rely on random guessing, the chance of successfully integrating this kind of world bead is 0. After the Wenzhong boundary bead was fused, Xiaopinggan picked up the Forbidden Garden pig herding boundary bead again. In a moment, the whole person was wrapped in a cocoon of light again. As soon as he opened his eyes, Xiaopinggan found himself in a garden, which was a bustling and beautiful place. In the surrounding gardens, there were rockeries, artificial pools, corridors, pavilions, halls, pavilions, flowers and trees, and several. The guard was following him, and in front of him, A man who looked like a eunuch with his face smeared as white as powder was carefully introducing him. "Look, officials, the long pines, ancient cypresses, pomegranates, and cherries here, as well as the embellished Julie, mountain peony, daphne, and smiles, all come from Fujian and Lingnan. They were built in the second year of Kanda. Well, the high hill over there is Huazhuigang. There is a panoramic view on the hill. From the panoramic view, you can see Fengjiang and Ruoheng bridges in the painting pool at the foot of the mountain. The willows around the painting pool are also very good. Although this painting pond is smaller than the Jinming pond, it still has a different scenery. If your majesty wants to go up, I will show you the way." "No, I'll just stroll around," Xiaopingan said casually. "A few days ago, some peacocks and monkeys covered in golden velvet were sent from the south and have been placed in the garden. The monkeys are different from ordinary monkeys. Their hair is golden and they have an auspicious aura. Your Majesty, please go and see." The old eunuch introduced with a smile, and then took Xiaopingan and turned in a direction from the path in front. "A monkey covered in golden velvet? Auspicious spirit. Isn't that a golden monkey?" Xiaopingan shook his head and smiled, and at the same time glanced around the royal garden. The royal garden of the northern Song dynasty was indeed a first-class place in Tokyo, gathering rare birds and animals, exotic flowers and plants from all over the world. Every plant and tree here has its origin. No wonder Song Shenzong was stunned when he saw a few dirty big black pigs raised here when he was playing here. The old eunuch was taking Xiaopingan towards the place where animals were kept. Before walking a few dozen meters, the flower branches in a flower bush nearby suddenly trembled, and then a black shadow emerged from the flower bed. He rushed towards Xiaopingan's direction at an extremely fast speed. The guards next to him saw something rushing towards him, and two guards immediately stood in front of Xiaopingan. One of the guards was indeed a master. As soon as the black shadow from the flowers rushed out, the guard next to him had already rushed forward with a single stride, but with one kick, the rushing black figure let out a piercing scream and was kicked up more than 2 meters high in the air. It fell heavily towards the flower bed next to it. As soon as the black figure landed on the ground, a streak of the sword flashed past, and the black shadow had been cut in two. The guards around the emperor are of course experts. The old eunuch who was leading the way turned pale with fright, and it was only then that he shouted at the top of his lungs, "Escort, escort! Don't panic, it's just a pig." Xiaopingan shook his head and waved the guards around him to stand away. He stepped forward and took a look. The black figure that had just alarmed the guards around him was just a native pig that was more than 1 meter tall. Long black pig. The big black pig was dead, but it still smelled bad. There was still a layer of pig manure mud on its body, and blood was flowing all over the ground. It looked extremely filthy. Just now, the black pig rushed from the flowers nearby. It had been kicked by a guard, all its organs and spine were broken. When it landed, it was killed by another guard with a knife. At this moment, the big black pig was covered with blood. Already motionless. The few guards next to them also looked surprised and looked at each other. How could there be such a common thing as a pig in this royal forbidden garden? They almost alarmed the holy master. The big black pig had just been killed here when 2 more men came panting over there holding ropes and wooden sticks. Judging from their clothes, those 2 men were wearing the uniforms of servants in the forbidden garden. Seeing that the big black pig had been killed and seeing the emperor here, the 2 men turned pale with fright and quickly knelt down. "Bastard, why did this pig come here and almost disturb the official family?" The old eunuch went up and scolded. "My father-in-law, please calm down. This pig was originally kept in a pig pen over there. I don't know why it broke through the pen and ran over today. We quickly came to chase." "Why, there are still pigs raised in this forbidden garden?" Xiaopingan asked. The old eunuch quickly turned his head and explained to Xiaopingan, "Guan family, these pigs have not been raised just these years. They have been raised since the time of Emperor Teju. Emperor Teju set the rules that some pigs must be raised in the Forbidden Garden. The pigs are kept at the corner of the Forbidden Garden. They are usually gathered in one place and cannot be seen by others. Oh, let's go and have a look. Xiaoping'an became interested and wanted to take a look. The so-called rare and exotic animals in this Forbidden Garden were not uncommon, but these big black pigs. He wanted to see how they were raised. La Guanxia, the place where the pigs are raised is too dirty and a bit indecent. Isn't it the king's land within the four seas? What's more, there's nowhere in this Forbidden Garden that I can't go to. Besides, there are many pigs kept in captivity in common people's homes. It doesn't matter if I go and have a look. Let's go. Seeing Xiaoping'an's resolute attitude, the eunuch could only take Xiaoping'an to see where the pigs were raised in the Forbidden Garden. To be honest, there are not many clean pig farms in the world, let alone in ancient times. Even within this Forbidden Garden, this pig-raising place is the same. It is also the most remote place in the Forbidden Garden dedicated to bamboo and cherry trees. There is a place enclosed in the northwest corner, which is a pigsty. All the swill and kitchen waste left over from the people in the Forbidden Garden are thrown here to raise pigs. The pigs were wallowing in the mud pit, and the pig manure pit was also nearby. The stench was overwhelming. There were 7 or 8 black pigs raised in the pig pen. Each black pig was in high spirits and was well taken care of by the servants in the Forbidden Garden. These pigs are too dirty and not suitable to be kept here. If your Majesty doesn't like it, I will have the pig pens removed from the Forbidden Garden and stop raising them. The old eunuch looked at Xia with a peaceful look on his face. He said something cautiously beside him. Xiaoping'an smiled slightly. In real history, after Song Shenzong discovered that these dirty and smelly pigs were still being raised in the royal Forbidden Garden, he also felt that these pigs were ruining the scenery in the Forbidden Garden, so he had these pig pens removed. Stopped raising pigs, but failed to persist. Less than 2 months later, Song Shenzong asked people to start raising pigs in the Forbidden Garden again. Why? Because more than a month later, one night, a demon used magic to cause trouble in the palace, making chickens and dogs restless in the Song Dynasty palace. Then, an old man in the palace said that the traditions and rules left in the palace would not be used when such a thing happened. You can use fresh pig blood to break the evil spirits of demons, but for a while, where to find fresh pig blood? Next, he reported to Song Shenzong, who finally understood why his ancestors raised pigs in the royal garden, which was to be used to defeat evil spirits at critical moments. Pigs live in the dirtiest and smelliest places without any taboos, so pig blood is inherently effective in destroying evil. Since raising pigs in the Forbidden Garden is a rule left by Teju, Teju naturally has his own reasons. We don't understand this reason now, but there is no need to deny it in a hurry. These pigs will stay here for now and live happily as usual. Just raise it, Xiaoping'an ordered. As you command. More than a month later, at night, several green flames suddenly appeared in the Song Dynasty palace. There were people crying around the flames. Various cries were also heard from several uninhabited abandoned garden palaces. There were so many noises and so many ghosts and shadows that the palace guards were all frightened and had big heads. Finally, an old eunuch who had lived in the palace for who knows how many years said that pig blood could be used to defeat evil spirits. Then the guards remembered that pigs were raised in the Forbidden Garden, and someone immediately went to get fresh pig blood. When the pig blood was obtained, they met when he saw something evil, he poured it on, all the evil spells were broken, and a demon who somehow broke into the palace was captured. Xiaoping'an received a report the next day, saying that the demon was caught in the palace last night, and he found out that the pigs raised in the Forbidden Garden had performed meritorious deeds. Before he could even say a few words of praise to the guards, the world of the world pearl was shattered. The second world bead was successfully fused. The upper limit of the secret mandala's divine power has reached 9,087 points after fusing the two world beads. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Golden Summoner. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 609. In the secret room, Xiaopinggan opened his eyes and exhaled. It took less than an hour for the second world bead to be fused. There is an additional relief in the temple, and the blood characters on the golden mountain are lit up. Xiaopinggan also masters an additional evil spell. This spell can be performed without pig blood, but with the addition of pig blood, the spell will be more powerful. There is an increase. Xiaopinggan then left the secret room of King Xuanhuan. It was still morning in the secret palace. Before noon, the sun was shining on the peach blossoms in full bloom in the king's inn garden, and a few carps were playing in the pond in the garden. Everything was so warm and peaceful. A few days ago, a few disciples of the Tianxing sect seemed to be discussing formation discs in Maihua Mountain. Go and try it yourself. Ask them to sell some formation discs or thunder talismans to see if you can exchange them for some boundary beads that you have not used. And the Horcrux longbow that Mian Lao gave to himself, should be able to be exchanged for a few boundary beads. Tianxing sect gave the thing to himself, and did not say that he could not use such things to exchange for boundary beads for their disciples. Bar. Xiaopinggan made up his mind, smiled slightly, left King's Inn garden and flew towards Maihua Mountain. Now is the honeymoon period between myself and the Tianxing section. The relationship between the two parties is good. It should not be too much for me to make some deals with the disciples of the Tianxing sect in an honest way and get some boundary beads. Both sides get what they need. A soul master's ability is somewhat sensitive and should not be exposed. If he exposes his profession as a soul master, then a soul master will have to sell himself to the Wanchen sect for the divine spring of the Seven Suns realm, and still pretend to know nothing in front of Mian Lao. This is too strange, and I am afraid it will remind some people of something. In comparison, the formation master is not so sensitive. The world beads and resources in the big sect are easy to get. Xiaopinggan sighed while flying. These days, if he were put on the battlefield of the Pantheon Star, he might not be able to get 2 world beads. Not to mention getting the antidote from the Wanchen sect to avoid future troubles. In short, this time I came to the secret palace of Tianxing sect, I made a profit, and the unexpected bonus was that I also learned the news about Mingrulan. Xiaopinggan was in a good mood. Maihua Mountain is located to the north of Tianfang Lake. It is named because the mountain has 5 peaks that look like plum blossoms when viewed from the sky. It is also a beautiful place for the secret palace. Many disciples of the Tianxing sect live near Maihua Mountain. Just when Maihua Mountain was already in sight, a sudden change occurred. Rumble. A thunder exploded in the void of Tianxing sect's secret realm, and a purple electric light stretched for hundreds of miles, tearing open the sky, and suddenly tore the sky of Tianxing sect's secret realm palace, leaving a terrifying crack, which was still the sun in the secret palace in the middle of the sky was directly blown away by the purple lightning at the moment when the thunder pierced the sky. It exploded in the sky and turned into countless fire rains, falling from the sky. Come down. In just an instant, the secret palace of Tianxing sect fell into darkness, and the shattered sun turned into countless fire rains falling from the sky. I'll go. Xiaopinggan was still thinking about the situation of the formation disk he eliminated when he came out to touch the formation disk in Tianxing section. The terrifying shockwave coming from the sky had already crossed the sky overwhelmingly, and the clouds had cleared away. The trees on the ground were broken, and the big trees hugged by several people were broken in half. The water in the quiet Tianfang Lake was swept up, forming a huge water wave more than 10 meters high, rushing towards the lake. When the shock wave approached, Xiaopinggan, flying in the sky, could not escape and quickly released 2 layers of water shields to protect his body. The shock wave swept across, and the blue water shield changed from a circle to an oval. The extremely tense water surface showed ripples and changed into different shapes. The shock wave was finally resolved, and the person was fine. Just for this short period of time, the secret palace of Tianxing sect, which was originally like a paradise with birds singing and flowers fragrant, was already in a mess. Xiaoping'an looked up and saw that at the highest point of the sky in the secret realm, a huge crack that was hundreds of miles long had been torn open. The crack was like a roof that had been lifted. Outside the crack were those dark red or dark black things. The rolling clouds and mist were exactly what Xiaoping'an saw over the south pole of the Pangolin star when he came to Tianxing sect that day, and lightning flashed across the sky from time to time. Just as Xiaoping'an was looking at the crack in the air, a figure flew in from the crack, and there was a powerful aura in it, which was extremely domineering. "Old Madam Yan, Mingruolan, there is no use hiding here. Hand over the sacred artifacts obtained from the secret caves of Wuliang Mountain. They are the treasures discovered by our Shillong family." A rough and domineering voice resounded throughout the entire secret palace. Oh no, the enemies of Tianxing sect actually came to visit. Xiaoping'an of the Shillong family had heard from disciples of the Tianxing sect before that the Shillong family was the powerful divine family that had a dispute with the Tianxing sect in the secret cave of Wuliang Mountain in the god-killing insect realm. The Shillong family, the strength was so strong that even the Tianxing sect had to avoid the edge temporarily. The holy flute was indeed stolen from Wuliang Mountain by the Tianxing sect. This thought suddenly flashed through Xiaoping'an's mind. As soon as this idea came up, Xiaoping'an saw many disciples of the Tianxing sect flying up in the Maihua mountain in front of him. Seeing the invasion of foreign enemies, the disciples of the Tianxing sect rushed towards him one by one. "Fly in the direction you just came from, which is where the palace garden in the center of the secret palace is located." Grandma Yan's voice sounded at the same time, echoing through the entire secret palace. She was extremely angry and extremely cold. "Shulongji, you old man, you really think that our Tianxing sect is afraid of your Shillong family, that god-killing insect anyone can go to Wuliang Mountain in the world, and it is not the territory of your Shillong family. Our Tianxing sect found the stolen sacred artifact, why should we give it to your Shillong family? You actually dare to damage our Tianxing sect's secret palace. Don't blame me for being ruthless this time. So what if you are ruthless? Hand over the sacred weapon, and I, the Shillong family, will spare your lives." The voice just now sounded again, without making any sense at all. "Activate the palace formation, all disciples of Tianxing sect, prepare to face the enemy." Grandma Yan's voice was sharp and thin, piercing Xiaoping'an's ears again. This was the last sound Xiaoping'an heard in the secret palace of Tianxing sect. As soon as Granny Yan finished speaking, Xiaoping'an noticed that there were lights on the ground and in the air under his feet. Before he could react, he was already being pushed and squeezed by a huge force that was hard to match, just like this secret realm. The impurities and dust in the palace space were directly squeezed out of the Tianxing sect's secret palace, and were thrown out from the crack in the sky in the secret palace like a bullet. Golden Summoner. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 610. Lights and shadows flashed in front of his eyes. By the time Xiaoping'an stopped, he was already in the huge space crack in the sky of Pantheon. Surrounded by surging black and red fog, lightning and storms were raging above his head. Under his feet, the huge crack in the secret palace of Tianxing sect was closing again in the flashing golden light, like a closed door or a wound being healed. With a startling glance, Xiaoping'an still saw the masters of the Shillong family who broke into the secret palace of Tianxing section. They were not ejected from the secret palace at all. Xiaoping'an saw none of those people. Each one of them took out a formation disc weapon to protect themselves in the air. The formation discs of the disciples of the Shillong family were all linked together, forming a dragon-shaped formation floating in the air, which fiercely matched the formation of the secret palace of Tianxing section. The collision together. Amidst the thunder and lightning, The cracks in the secret palace disappeared, and Xiaoping'an no longer knew what happened in the secret palace. The battle between the divine family and the big sects is truly terrifying. Should I return to the world of the god-killing insects, or try my luck on this planet of gods? Just when Xiaoping'an was stunned, he found that he was surrounded. More than 20 people appeared quietly beside him. No, or rather, after he was thrown out of the secret palace, he accidentally fell into the middle of this group of people. These people were originally guarding the Tianxing section outside the secret palace. The black mage robe, golden belt, and a dragon-shaped embroidery locked with a gold chain on the belt are exactly the same as those masters of the Shillong family who have just entered the Tianxing sect's secret palace. Needless to say, these people are the Shillong family. The power of putting it outside. The people who gathered around looked at Xiaoping'an with some unkind eyes. Among these people, there were 3 of them with the aura of Nether Realm, 2 old men and 1 woman. The woman was the only woman among these people. She was wearing a green skirt. She was in her 20s, with picturesque eyebrows and graceful figure. She had a slightly round face with a little baby fat, and a pair of beautiful red phoenix eyes. Yes, although the aura on his body is that of the Netherland, his temperament is pure and innocent. The surrounding masters of the Shillong family surrounded this woman like stars over the moon. These masters of the Shillong family are also a little confused. Originally, they were guarding here as a reserve force for the Shillong family. If something unexpected happened to the team entering inside, they would have to remove the Tianxing sect's secret palace from the outside. Then blast away and meet the Shillong family's team. If the people from the Tianxing sect are defeated and want to run away, they will block it here and cannot let the people from the Tianxing sect take the sacred weapon away again. Unexpectedly, the masters of the Shillong family had just broken into the secret palace of the Tianxing section. The Tianxing sect activated the Grand Formation. Before the 2 sides could fight, 1 person was thrown out of the secret realm of the Tianxing sect. What kind of trick is this? Hey, who are you, and how did you get squeezed out of the Tianxing sect's secret palace? The woman asked, her voice as clear and elegant as a clear stream in the mountains caressing the strings of a piano. Although the woman was so old, she asked fiercely, but just listening to her voice gave the impression that she was talking about everyday things, and she didn't feel any danger at all. Of course, although this woman does not look fierce, none of the people around her are easy to get rid of. All the cold and oppressive gazes were focused on Xiaoping'an. The aura of powerful divine power was already brewing, and many people were already preparing to take action. Faced with this situation, Xiaoping'an not only did not feel afraid, but a look of surprise and relief suddenly appeared on his face, and he saluted everyone around him with excitement. Thank you all for saving me from the secret palace of Tianxing section. How about you? Come, I'm in a terrible situation. I was caught here a few days ago and they said they wanted to extract my soul power. These days, I'm still thinking about how to escape from the clutches of Tianxing section. I didn't expect you all to come here. Well, Tianxing sect activated the Great Formation in the secret realm. Because I am not from Tianxing sect, I was ejected directly. You are my great benefactors. Everyone in the Shillong family looked at each other in shock. Aren't you from Tianxing sect? The woman just now was stunned for a moment, then asked again. This fairy is so good looking, and you can tell at a glance that he is a person with an exquisite mind. How dare I lie to this fairy? Of course I am not a member of the Tianxing section. If I were a member of the Tianxing sect, how could I still be cheated by the Tianxing sect? Xingzong's Great Formation popped up. After listening to Xiaoping'an's words, the woman smiled with her eyes like small crescent moons, showing 2 tiger teeth, and raised her chin. What did you just say? I said I'm not from the Tianxing sect. It's not this one, it's the one in front, the woman corrected. Xiaoping'an looked serious. I said this fairy is so good looking and has an exquisite mind. How dare I lie to this fairy? You don't look very good, but you have good eyesight, the woman laughed. Ahem, if you don't have anything else to do, I'll take my leave first. I won't disturb your important matters. The mountains are high and the rivers are long. We'll see you later. Xiaoping'an said and wanted to run away. Wait, I haven't finished asking yet, the woman immediately stopped Xiaoping'an. Do you have any more questions, fairy? Of course. You said that Tianxing sect captured you to extract your soul power. Do you know why they want to extract your soul power? It is used to nourish a green flute sacred instrument. Have you smoked? Not yet, I'm reluctant. The old man who took out my soul power said that my soul power can't be used, so I have to be willing to do it. I have enough food and shelter for these 2 days and let me stay in the secret palace. There is no restriction on my freedom. Just now I went out for a walk and accidentally encountered the secret realms formation being activated, and I was ejected. It sounds like that, the woman nodded to herself. Then I will withdraw first. If I meet you again someday, I will treat you all to a drink. I will remember the kindness of the Shillong family. Wait. The woman stopped Xiaoping'an again. The woman tilted her head and squinted her eyes to look at Xiaoping'an. There is no loophole in what you said, but I always feel that you are not very honest. Maybe you will use it. I need to do some tricks to make you tell the truth. The woman spoke, with a mischievous smile on her face, and then took out a black bottle in her hand. Here is the ugly truth pill I prepared, you eat it first. 1 pill, let me tell you the question you just said again. If you tell lies, this ugly monster will take effect, and you will become an ugly monster with crooked eyes and a flat nose. It depends on how you meet people. The woman was talking proudly, as if the pill she was holding was extremely powerful and invincible. When Xiaoping'an saw the woman take out the bottle from her space equipment, the faces of the Shillong family masters around her all twitched, and the 2 people who were slightly closer to her actually quietly moved to the side. With just this action, Xiaoping'an knew that this woman's elixir was probably not very reliable. That ugly vomiting elixir might kill someone if eaten. Of course Xiaoping'an would not take the pill, but in the situation in front of him, if he refused, he would probably be beaten by the masters of the Shillong family in front of him immediately. What, don't you dare! When the woman saw Xiaoping'an's hesitation, she suddenly became fierce again. Xiaoping'an sighed, ahem, the name of the elixir refined by this fairy is extremely precious. I am already ugly enough. How much more ugly can I get? I don't have this honor. It's almost like being disfigured. I just think it's too wasteful to use such precious elixirs on me. Fairies might as well keep the elixirs and use them again when I encounter those who are good looking, maybe the effect will be better. It doesn't matter. I can still refine this ugly truth-revealing pill. Don't worry, it won't kill you. It will only give you diarrhea for a few years at most. The woman said seriously. Have loose bowels? Several years? Xiaoping'an finally understood why the masters of the Shillong family had such expressions. He sighed and said, okay, then fairy, please throw the elixir over here. The woman directly threw the elixir towards Xiaoping'an. When Xiaoping'an reached out to catch it, 10 thunder talismans were thrown out of his hand and detonated in the air. A series of lightning exploded in the air, like a big net, attracting lightning from the surrounding void. All of a sudden the masters of the Shillong family were enveloped.